Ernest Hemingway is a name which every person, and I should say every young man, will hear in the background of their adolescent years. Perhaps having some understanding of who he is and what he did, but for most, he is one of the most important literary figures of all time. Except he's often given this accomplishment by those who haven't read or heard his work. And that's what Hemingway was for me. However, this summer, I was in lockdown and felt reading was necessary. For if I was to sit in my garden doing nothing, I should have some companionship in reading. Something which I wish I did more often. I started with Keskesay, Ham on Rye, brilliant. So it seemed fitting to move on to another literary great, whose name sits on so many lips. So naturally, I went for what was his most acclaimed work, Old Man and the Sea. However, once I started, I realised this was not the Hemingway which a young man should be reading, although still an important one. Instead, my friend lent me The Sun Also Rises. What I found was a book which felt so perfect for me in my situation. While sitting in my garden during a lockdown, it did not compare to the bullfights of Pamplona. It had the mood of a young man who didn't know everything of himself, yet he was confident in experiencing life through sun, heat, friendship, and love, the key to all tales of a boy becoming a man. However, whilst the story captivated me with its ability to turn that which is simple, plain, boring to most, into excitement, anticipation, and life. That's what makes Hemingway special. He revolutionised short, snappy, to-the-point writing. He made journalism in fiction. Ernest Miller Hemingway was born on July 21st, 1899, in Oak Park, Illinois, to a well-off suburb just west of Chicago. His parents, Clarence and Grace Hemingway, were both well-educated and respected in the community, holding jobs as a physician and a musician. In turn, Hemingway would grow up in what seemed like a good, safe, conservative household. However, what sticks out in Hemingway's early life is that it was until he was 5 years old, Grace raised him and his sister Marceline as if they were two twins, going so far as to hold back Marceline a year in school to maintain this illusion. This illusion is perhaps what made Hemingway, as an adult, profess to hate his mother. But whilst the macho man that was Hemingway started life in the most feminine of ways, where it seems he found his love for that which is masculine, is on his trips with his father. Each summer, the family travelled to Windermere on Wallen Lake, near Petoskey, Michigan. This is where young Hemingway would learn to hunt, fish, and camp in the woods and lakes of North Michigan. Moments in the young man's life which would drive a deep fire for outdoor adventure. Hemingway's scholarly life would be moulded at Oak Park and River Forest High School. He was a good athlete, involved in a number of sports, such as boxing, running, and football. Though Hemingway was never a star, he didn't let other people know this. He would often lie about stories in which he made great tackles in plays and football, often fooling those he told, giving us perhaps an early glimpse into the creativity which Hemingway would later put into his writing. Speaking of his writing, Ernest gained good grades in English, and would, in his last 2 years of high school, edit the Trapeze and Tribula, the school's newspaper. He would then leave high school, going on to work for the Kansas City Star as a cub reporter, only staying for 6 months, with his style being moulded by the rules of the paper's writing, something we will talk about later. A formative time in Ernest's life came when in December 1917, Hemingway responded to a Red Cross recruitment effort and signed on to be an ambulance driver in Italy, after having failed to enlist in the US Army because of poor eyesight. In May 1918, he sailed from New York and arrived in Paris, as the city was under bombardment from German artillery. That June he arrived at the Italian front. On his first day in Milan, he was sent to the scene of munitions factory explosion, to join rescuers retrieving the shredded remains of female workers. He described the incident in his non-fiction book, Death in the Afternoon. I remember that after we searched quite thoroughly for the complete dead, we collected fragments. A few days later, he was stationed at Fostel-Detta, BP Ave. On July 8th, he was seriously wounded by a mortar fire. Despite his wounds, Hemingway assisted Italian soldiers to safety, for which he received the Italian Silver Medal of Bravery. He was still only 18 at the time. Hemingway later said of the incident, "When you go to war as a boy, you have a great illusion of immortality. Other people get killed, not you. Then you are badly wounded the first time. You lose that illusion, and you know it can happen to you." He sustained severe shrapnel wounds to both legs, underwent immediate operation at a distribution centre, and spent 5 days at a field hospital before he was transferred to the Red Cross Hospital in Milan. While recuperating, he fell in love with Agnes von Karowski, a Red Cross nurse 7 years his senior. When Hemingway returned to the United States in January 1919, he believed Agnes would join him within months and two would marry. Instead, he received a letter in March with her announcement that she was engaged to an Italian officer. In the next few years, Hemingway would find himself in Paris as a foreign reporter for the Toronto Star and find his voice. Hemingway of the early Paris years was described tall, handsome, muscular, broad-shouldered, brown eyes, rosy-cheeked, square-jawed, soft-voiced young man, and this bright young man would be taken under the wing of Gertrude Stein, who would be his mentor, bring him into the world of artists and writers of the Montparnasse Quarter, whom she referred to as the Lost Generation. This would see Hemingway engage with influential painters such as Pablo Picasso, Juan Miró, and Grand Cris. He eventually withdrew from Stein's influence, and their relationship deteriorated into a literary quarrel and spanned decades. Ezra Pond met Hemingway by chance at Sylvia's Beach Bookshop, Shakespeare and Company in 1922, and the two toured Italy in 1923 and lived on the same street in 1924. They forged a strong friendship, and in Hemingway, Pond recognised and fostered a young talent. Pond introduced Hemingway to James Joyce, with whom Hemingway frequently embarked on alcoholic sprees. In 20 months in Paris, Hemingway filed 88 stories for the Toronto newspaper, and his first book, 3 Stories and 10 Poems, was published in 1923. After the summer, Hemingway knew he missed Paris, and considered Toronto boring, and wanted to return to the life of a writer, rather than live the life of a journalist. Hemingway would release In Our Time in 1925, and Ernest gained his first praise from critics in the United States, as he was seen as the rejuvenator of the short story genre, with his to-the-point style and use of declarative sentences. Though it was 6 months earlier, when Hemingway had met Fitzgerald, that Hemingway knew he needed to move on to the novel, as he had read The Great Gatsby and knew he must produce a piece in that manner. He would then publish The Sun Also Rises and stamp his place in the novel world. After this, Hemingway would release a lot of work, from Whom the Bell Tolls to his Nobel Prize-winning Old Man in the Sea. Though he would leave Paris and his wife and child for many women, he would live in the Caribbean, Africa and Cuba, along with exploring many places, becoming a great fisherman and an avid hunter. He would live the macho life he is known for, but came to sad demise when he took his own life on July 2nd, 1961. But whilst his death was tragic, what he would leave behind was a style which so many try to make their own, but no one has taken to the sharp structure of writing the way Hemingway wrote since, or perhaps ever will. Often what moulds a writer's place in history is a book or collection of books which break down a genre or just have a great story to tell. Though what Hemingway did was create an entirely new style of writing. He coined a style which was quick, limited fiction. His writing did not drag on like the literature that precedes him. No, Hemingway's literature looked to tell the story he wanted, and nothing more. This was created by using little adjectives. Rather, he kept things to the point. He didn't go into great detail, but created detail in the reader's mind by building up the scenario through the collections of short declarative sentences and dialogue, allowing the reader to infer, following the style of show, not tell. Though there are many ways in which Hemingway's style came to be born. Hemingway's mother was a well-known musician in his village, so naturally taught her son to play the cello, with Hemingway admitting in later life that music lessons contributed to his writing, such as the contrapuntal structure of For Whom the Bell Tolls. Although where it is clear that he gained the foundations of his writing from is the Kansas City Star's style guide, in which he learned his trade. The guide stated the following: use short sentences, use short first paragraphs, use vigorous English, be positive, not negative. These are the rules which Hemingway would move on in his career with, always holding these as staples of his writing. This saw Hemingway's writing style be deep-rooted in a journalist style, which is to the point. This saw Hemingway bring journalism to fiction, and in turn create a journalist style in fiction. Though a point why Hemingway may have dove so deep into this style is made perfectly by Henry Louis Gates, who believes Hemingway's style was fundamentally shaped in the reaction to his experience of the World War. After World War I, he and other modernists lost faith in the central institutions of Western civilization. By reacting against the elaborate style of the 19th century writers, and by creating a style in which meaning is established through dialogue, through action and silences, a fiction which nothing crucial, or at least very little, is stated explicitly. This is exactly what he did. Just like all the modernists post-World War, he used the harsh reality that the world isn't as good as we were told to create great works of art. Ernest Hemingway sparked a flame in literature with his style of harsh, brute sentences that would see so many try to copy, but no one who can follow in Hemingway's beat. That is what makes him such a special writer. He did that which so many can only dream of, completely redefine the face of literature in his time whilst living on today. What we should take from Hemingway is not to look to the right a book which only holds short sentences and few adjectives. Rather, we should look to redefine, reshape, rebuild, tear down whatever medium we practice, and make that which has never been done, just like Hemingway did in his time. What we should look to do is collect all the information from our favourite artists and create, making that which the likes of Hemingway would admire, just like you admire him.